What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? And today I want to talk about something here, as it were, or as I may. I want to talk about what makes a good remastered. And I'm not saying this as a professional. I'm just going to only put my own 2 cents in this because I think when it comes to a remastered, and remasters are basically not made from the ground up. They're not. A remake is. But that's going to be a different type of thing of what I'm really want to discuss here because when it came or comes to the System Shock remake that came out this year for consoles, oh boy, is that game absolutely amazing. But point being, today we are talking about what makes a good remaster. So, okay, now I'm going to go back to my experience with Doom 64 of old school then and then old school now. This game was absolutely amazing of its time. And this game was not only amazing, it was the fact of what this game was able to do. And utilizing the system power of the N64. The N64 was the generational of gaming when it came to any kind of games that you played, whether if it's Mario 64 or Quake 64, which they did actually make a Quake on 64, and then Doom 64. However, Doom 64 was made by Midway Studios, and the studios is now defunct, which I know a lot of people already know. But now, since we got a Doom 64 remastered, and so what's really special about this game is that this game was actually ended up being a pre-order through Doom Eternal. And I do not want to talk about that game because yeah. Okay. The point being, Doom 64 was a very endearing nostalgia feeling trip to this game because of what this game was actually able to do. I think that, for what I understand, is that this game actually bridged the gap between the events of, I believe it was Doom 2 and the original Doom. Yeah, no, it was in bridged the gap between Doom and Doom 2, which was actually interesting because I did not realize that this game shared a unique, same type of timeline. But we're not going to talk about that here. And I think what makes Doom 64 such a good remaster, other than from, like Star Wars Dark Forces, PO that just came out later this year, and then Night Dive Studios actually ends up making another remaster, which is going to be coming out hopefully, I think soon. It's called The Thing, or John Carpenter's The Thing. I can't wait. But because I think that game is just going to be absolutely fucking amazing. But point being, I think what made Doom 64 such an important game, not just because as a Doom title, I think it had to do with the fact that this game really utilized the N64 to a certain type of degree because of where this game was actually able to do and utilize the 64 to its power potential, and showing off some better pixelization involvement, some better structure of lighting. And I think that's what the N64 was able to do for Doom 64. I think that's what makes this game so well loved and well liked. But however, I think when it comes to Doom 64 remastered as well, though, it's like I said, Night Dive Studios, they did an excellent job on this game. And what they do is that when they bring back some of these old school gen titles, is that they use an engine known as the Kex engine. But they did not do that with the remake of System Shock because when it came to the System Shock remake, they literally had to bring that game from the ground up using the Unreal 4 engine. And by the way, congratulations, Night Dive. You did an excellent job on an old school remake from that of the original same name of the game back in 1994. So congratulations, by the way. Now, I want to talk about Doom 64 just a little bit more here real quickly, is that the remastered on consoles, it's outstanding. They did a great job of bringing this game back from using the Kex engine, bringing some lighting and dark infrastructure of the lighting of the game itself. They did an awesome job with this title. I think they did a really good job with this remaster. Now, I think when it came to Doom 64, this is definitely one of my favorite Doom games of all time, opposite that of Doom 3. Yeah, I know, it's true. But other than that, I'm hoping that we get more remasters from Night Dive Studios. And, with the thing coming along the way from them, I think it's going to be an amazing title. All right, guys, we are now going to be talking about the Quake remaster that came out in 2022, I believe. And this is one of the most endearing games to my heart because I actually ended up growing up on Quake. I grew up on the original Dooms and Unreal back in 1998 because 1999 is when I graduated high school. And so I really think when it comes to Quake, though, this game was absolutely amazing because not only were the original Doom games a 3D-esque type of game to that, it was the fact that Quake was actually one of the first 3D rendered polygonal games made from id Software. I don't think a lot of people knew that, but it's true. And the reason why they were able to make it more 3D, make it more lifelike 3D, is because they were able to utilize the systems of bringing this game to a focal point of what the original Doom franchise was able to do, and utilizing that and bringing Quake to the fold. And I think that's what makes Quake so good. Now, here's the thing about the remastered, though. They brought back this game other than what they did with Doom or Doom 64 or like Star Wars Dark Forces. However, I think when it came to Quake, though, this game, a lot of people loved Quake. I think Quake is definitely, I wouldn't say it's a stronger IP, but Doom is a much stronger IP because it has a really strong pedigree. Quake actually ended up getting a pretty good pedigree from a lot of people as well, much like myself, because we have Quake 1, we have Quake 2, and then we have Quake 3 Arena, then we have Quake Champions. I mean, we have different types of Quake iterations of games, but I think when it comes to the Quake Remastered, though, is that they, like I said again, they did not have to bring this game from the ground up like they did with the System Shock remake. I think that's another thing that really makes a good remaster is that a remastered is not a remake. And what they do with the remaster is that they just bring up the resolution and textures. They bring up, they give it more better lighting and aesthetic. And that is why they were able to utilize the Kex engine of making a good remaster of that from an old school title, much like Quake or Doom 64 or Star Wars Dark Forces. And I think that's where this game really does an awesome job with the utilization from the Kex engine, showing off some of the volumetric lighting a little bit. I wouldn't say volumetric lighting, but that's a wrong way of putting it. But other than that, I really think that Quake is, man, this game was just absolutely astounding. Other than, like the Doom franchise, they revolutionized the first-person shooter genre, other than like Wolfenstein 3D. But then again, Quake, it was just an amazing game from its time, and it still is. And I think that's why I think remasters are always a really good way of bringing back some of these old school generational titles and showing off what a studio like Night Dive Studios can able to do to bring some of these games back. And so I want to put in a little bit of not information here that's wrong, but I want to share something here because I feel like that needs to be a little addressed. I want to see a Return to Castle Wolfenstein remaster. And I think a lot of people really do because, when it came to Wolfenstein, that was a very strong pedigree as well from Wolfenstein 3D. But this is exactly why we have these games in general when it comes to not just remasters, but it has to do with why we have old school games like Quake or Doom or any other games like Star Wars Dark Forces. Wolfenstein 3D was the catalyst. It was the cause and effect when it came to the first-person shooter genre. There's no question about it. What other games can you possibly think of that brings these games to fruition? That's what I think. But either or, that's just my opinion, of course. And so that's what I'm saying. Quake, it was a revolutionary game. Other than from like the Doom game, original Doom games, or like Wolfenstein 3D, or freaking any other games you could possibly think of, or like Unreal. That's another game that I really would like to talk about because that game was a revolutionary of first-person shooters in general as well. Because that game came out in 1998, but however, it was the quality of that game. It was the way how they are able to utilize a specific type of engine known as the Unreal Engine, and using environmental storytelling to the utmost, and the shooting mechanics. It was everything of what made that game so good, and it's why it's one of the most renowned first-person shooters ever made amongst from Quake and Doom and Wolfenstein 3D, or even Duke Nukem 3D for that matter. That was a game that was ahead of its time as well. And so all I can say is this. I think when it comes to Quake, this is definitely one of my favorite games of all time, like I said before, and it's the reason why I always go back to these. Now we're going to be talking about Quake 2. Quake 2, this is a very interesting game because initially that they were not going to make a sequel to the first Quake, but since Quake 1 was highly popular and it was critically acclaimed from Doom or Wolfenstein 3D or Duke Nukem 3D, but Quake 2, oh man, this game was just, oh god, it's so good, ladies and gentlemen, because Quake 2, this was another revolutionary game because they, I think to my understanding is that they were able to utilize a different type of, I believe, a different engine from, like an id engine that they usually use or something like that. It was so cool. And what they did with the Doom 2016, they called an engine called 666, which is kind of weird. But either or, each generational of games, whether if it's old school games like Quake, Quake 2, or Doom 64, or Star Wars Dark Forces, or any other games that Night Dive Studios was able to utilize the Kex engine of bringing some of these games back, which is, like I said again, why these games are so good. But it's the reason that I think Quake 2 was definitely an amazing game because of the structure of the game, showing the fidelity of this game as well in a different type of engine other than its previous engine from back in the day. And it greatly shows because I've noticed that when I played through this game again, not too recently, I'm telling you, they did an awesome job with this title. And so rumors have it that might be bringing back possibly Return to Castle Wolfenstein, I'm sure. I don't know, but I know that they're going to be coming back with a lot of old school titles. One game in particular that they are bringing back is Time Splitters. I've heard that Time Splitters might be making a comeback through the PlayStation Plus Premium users. That's going to be really cool. I think that's going to be pretty awesome. But other than that, I really think when it comes to Quake 2, though, this game, what can I say really about this game? Because I really think that they did an awesome job with this remastered. And this is what I'm saying. This is what I think what really makes a good remaster. Whether if you're on console or on PC, everybody's saying, well, it's just a copy and paste. Well, be that as it may, I'm telling you, though, Night Dive Studios, they are a very passionate studio. They know what they're doing. They're bringing back some of these old school titles for us gamers to play. And so I just think it's definitely important that we are getting some of these games back again. I think that's why I think I love remasters. Now, be that as it may, that, remasters are not always going to be the best. But I think when it came to Doom 64, Quake 2, Star Wars Dark Forces or PO'd or The Thing, which is another game that Night Dive Studios will be coming out later this year, I think. I'm telling you, these guys have a strong, very strong pedigree of bringing some of these old school games back, and it's astounding, it's inspiring, and I just think that I want to see more games from this studio. And one thing I will mention before, as I previously stated, with the remake of the System Shock of the same name back from 1994 on PC, they did an amazing job on that game. I have not finished it yet, but heretofore, I really think that Night Dive Studios do such an amazing job of making these games make a comeback. And I think this is truly why I think what makes a really good master. I think when it comes to any old school games, I think Night Dive Studios is a perfect fit. They have done such an amazing job making excellent remasters. And you guys just keep up the fucking good work, people. And I'm just saying, I really think that when it comes to remasters, though, I want to see, I want to see other games. I would love to see an Unreal remaster. That would be fascinating. And so I think it would be also fascinating if they brought back Return to Castle Wolfenstein. That'll be utterly amazing as well. And like I said again, Night Dive Studios, they have a very, very strong pedigree. So, too much further ado. This is Jake from Citizen JV. Thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciated. Any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in that comment section below. You guys have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you later. Peace.